Welcome to the 150th anniversary celebration of the new Castle Community YMCA. Our story begins in 1867, when a group of local civic leaders organized Newcastle's first YMCA. In 1885, longtime Y supporter Ira D. Sankey donated $40,000 for the construction of a building to house Newcastle's YMCA. The YWCA was founded in 1907, and 4 years later, the YMCA would construct a new facility where the current Downtown Y stands. The YWCA would move into the original YMCA building and would remain there until 1957, when both organizations would share the same building.
A significant thing about this whole organization is that the people who had wealth in Newcastle continually supported that organization as it did. And they went through the depressions, they went through the collapse of the industry in Newcastle and so forth, and we still have a most beautiful building and a most beautiful program. The reason that what the Y stood for, it's inclusivity. It didn't matter who you were or what kind of a financial background you had, that you could come into the Y.
In the early 1920s, both organizations would get into the summer camp business, with Camp Eastbrook for the YWCA and Camp Rents for the YMCA.
Oh, I loved Camp Rents. You know, I had so many experiences at the camp, you know, whether it was horseback riding, archery, shooting. These are things that I probably would never have ever done in my life if I would not have gone to Camp Rent.
Well, I can remember this. It was very simple camp, and it was made up, the strength was in its counselors. And they would tell stories. They had a story called Saggergaggy.
It was like this headless horseman that lived on what we thought was an island on the other side of the Slippery Rock Creek. But as I look at it on Google Earth, I realized it wasn't an island, it was just the other side of the creek.
They would tell the story at night, we'd have a campfire, and late that night, somebody would ride through the camp with a pumpkin under their arm and scare the dickens out of the kids.
You start hearing these noises from the cabins and people are yelling out, they're Saggergaggy. So I looked out the screen of my cabin, and sure enough, there was somebody on a horse, and this person came through with a blanket or something over his head and what turned out, I'm sure, to be a pumpkin or something under his arm. You couldn't tell it was a pumpkin. This had never happened before, what followed. The next day, there were at least 40 mattresses that were placed out on the yard because of guys wet their bed. And I think that they did it in their sleep, or they wouldn't leave to go to the bathroom.
I went to a fancier camp, but I actually like Camp Rents better.
In 1963, the 1911 Y building is demolished to make room for the new Y facility, designed to house both YMCA and YWCA organizations. In 1964, a dedication ceremony is held to celebrate the opening of the newly constructed facility.
One of the most beautiful YMCAs, YWCA in Pennsylvania. Beautiful lounges and curtains everywhere, and the place was sparkling.
It was huge. I was in college at the time. It's a beautiful structure. I believe the Eccles Company were the architects, and it stood out, and it was something you just couldn't pass up without taking a good look. To me, it provided hope.
In '64, I mean, it was amazing, the amount of people that had come in here. And at that time, we didn't have all this equipment here. Electronic equipment didn't come in until about the late 70s, middle 70s. But people would come in here and we had weight room and gym and the pool, the racquetball courts. And I mean, they really, we had to sign up for racquetball courts or else you didn't get your chance to play.
20 years later, in 1984, the YMCA and YWCA would merge to become the new Castle Community Y.
Well, I came to know Ruth right after I came to Newcastle. She made herself available to me. She was a force for the YWCA.
My mother was involved with the YW from when she was a child. And growing up, it was always something that we talked about.
And I want to emphasize that when the merger came, when the time came to join the two organizations, Ruth was all in favor for it. And she was the mother figure of the YWCA. She had been there forever. And she was very, very gracious.
Getting together of the YM and the YW was not a sure thing, from my recollection and from what I was hearing at the dinner table. But it became a sure thing, in my view, because of my mother and Dick Rentz. That does not exclude other people. But Dick Rentz was head of the YM and my mother was head of the YW. And of course they had their boards to deal with to come to a conclusion about the getting together.
Had it not been for Ruth's influence, this merger would never have taken place. She was the person that helped us get along.
2001 marked the opening of the new Preston Chambers Y-Zone facility in Neshannock Township.
So my dad and Dan Harris, who is the executive director of the Y, Dan was the coach of a traveling basketball team that myself and Dan's son Danny played on. And so we would go up to Erie where they had a bunch of basketball leagues and soccer leagues that we would play in. And they had an enormous complex up there with several basketball courts, several soccer fields. And you know, my dad just started, and Dan started to talk and thought it'd be a great idea for the new Castle community to have a similar thing, which they named the Y Zone, for our community.
There's a big difference between talking the talk and walking the walk. And the leadership of the Y has generally been able to talk the talk and walk the walk.
I think I knew the impact of the Y before I joined the board on a certain level. I don't know that I knew the depth of the impact, which I think is tremendous.
The Y is so many things to so many people. When you hear the member stories, and we'll do these Y moments, we'll do the why we're here moments at our board meetings. And the stories you hear back are generally not about the condition of fitness equipment or the availability of some specific fitness class. It's about what that individual is getting from the experience of being a Y member, which is much more than just training or workout sessions or swimming in the pool.
It's a service organization. You don't realize it's a service organization, but it is. And we do certain things that other fitness facilities don't do. We encourage camaraderie. We encourage that family membership as opposed to an individual membership. And you know, we have little things on the walls, you know, respect, honesty. We actually promote that kind of stuff.
When you walk in, I think it's a feeling that you feel welcome, which is very important. You know, when you walk into certain areas, certain places, you don't have that feeling. It's intimidating. And I'm not just talking places to exercise, but anywhere where you would maybe convene. You know, you walk in and there's a little bit of intimidation factor. I don't think you ever get that there.
They know that they're going to be received warmly, and also the people that they work out with. And they form friendships. They really do.
We always talk about what differentiates us from the for-profit gyms, your Anytime Fitnesses, your Planet Fitnesses. We have everything for everyone. The Silver Sneaker program is great. We have anywhere from 30 to 40 Silver Sneakers on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the Y Zone. And they come and they do their class, but then they hang out for 2 straight hours. They play cards, they drink their coffee, and they have a great time at the Y. And that's where we thrive, is building those relationships.
They come down here and they want to enjoy themselves, play different sports, interact, you know, with the other people of their age. And like I said, when they come here, it's their second home.
I think Newcastle is unique in that respect. Most of the guys that we play with, we grew up with. I mean, it was, you know, it was always a challenge when we were playing baseball or whatever, and it just, you know, spilled over to racquetball. It's amazing the fun we have down here, and you get a workout and you don't even realize it. So
every day before I come down here is, Lord, let me make a difference in someone's life today. And that's what I try and do, whether it be a smile or remembering their birthday or asking how their kids are. I've met so many people, have so many friends. People bring me apples and oranges and little treats, and you know, it's just amazing, you know, and I'm not here for that by any means, but it's just amazing how people can be so kind to somebody.
To begin with, they're my family. I consider them my family. And my 13 years has just been awesome. There just aren't enough words for the Y. The Y is just highly motivated for the children, very, very motivated. The children love it here.
Newcastle Y, I would have to say more so than a lot of Ys, because I get to see a lot of Ys in the work that I do across the region and across the country, provides a lot of community outreach and community programs that some Ys don't. And Newcastle has never they have never said we can't because we don't have enough funds. They have never said that. And there are some Ys that are saying that, you know, and I think that's what makes the Newcastle Y different.
I believe also that many people get a misconception about the Y itself, as saying it's just a place for activity. We have to get past that and realize that this is a place where kids can feel safe to talk about anything and everything that they're afraid to talk to them about. And I thank God for that opportunity to allow me to be in this arena here, in this place, to allow kids to come into my life.
Obviously, we have economic problems, we have employment problems, we have domestic problems, all of which spill onto one another. And of course, in my view, in our view, the Y kind of addresses those things all at the same time by taking in the kids, taking in some of the parents, that sort of thing, and creating a positive atmosphere and hopefully creating a positive culture into the future.
But we can't be selective on who we want to help or mentor. I think all kids need a mentor, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a Christian, whether it's a person in the office. They all need somebody to guide them to a better future.
When you're young, maybe you don't really realize that, but you know, as I got older and I look back at why I am who I am today, I realized because I spent so much time in that building, I wasn't treated any different because I was this little blonde girl. This was the only sport, swimming was the only sport available to me. So that's what I did, and that's what I was comfortable doing. And then I went from that to Mr. Phillips having us, you know, I learned how to jump on the trampoline. He taught us how to play racquetball, handball, took us canoeing. Bob Phillips invested so much time in my life, and he was my swim coach. But, you know, I still see him today. He's 91 years old, I believe, and I am just as happy to see him today as, you know, I was when I was a teenager.
When you're giving something maybe to that one child, you're not just affecting that child. You are affecting that whole family. And when you affect that whole family, you bond that family closer together. You make everyone feel more positive. It's unbelievable the difference. Look at the kids who've come through there. I can tell you about kids who are now in like prestigious positions, who went to Ivy League schools, and they hung out at the Y as kids.
My son, Sean Murphy, when he was 6 years old, he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. a NOS, which is a non-specified anxiety disorder, and ADHD. And the combination of the three made it very hard on him. And we wanted to find him something that would help him grow and develop and have a core group of friends. And Miss Joni, who he had been taking swim lessons with since he was 3, suggested the swim team, and it started this whole 16-year swim family. The why is the reason Sean's in college. He's a senior in college. And nobody thought he would make it that far, and he proved everybody wrong. And I really, really think it's the why.
He had so many troubles as a child, you know. He had Asperger's. And I mean, I'll say Sean, and I used to go around and around, but I didn't treat him any different than anybody else. Now he's in his senior year in college and talking about being a professor. Very brilliant, does wonderful in college. I feel this, I know, speak for myself and for John, we really love the children. We really love these kids.
We always sang, my mother-in-law especially, that the why saved Sean.
I remember a story where it talks about a young man that was in a very difficult situation at home. And he actually reached out to the Y and communicated that he felt safe there. That he went down to the Y because he felt safe. And when you hear stories like that, from a board level, we're extremely motivated to continue that mission, to continue trying to provide for the community, because it's essential to help each and every one of the people that reach out to us. That's a little idealistic, but you do it one at a time.
I've been doing this for 35 years, and I've worked with a lot of very nice volunteers, but this board, the volunteers, the skill level, the commitment, the compassion, the understanding of what the Y can do and what else they want to do is above and beyond the most incredible feeling I could ever get.
The Y has systematically chosen people that they knew had that passion. They chose the right people to continue with the mission of the Y, and those people were all passionate. And I mean, when you say high functioning board, it is by far, in my opinion, the highest functioning board in Lawrence County.
I think ultimately what it boils down to is when you have a strong management team led by a strong CEO, we've been blessed to have 2 in a row. And that's my limited purview because I can't go back much farther than that. But when you're blessed to have 2 good leaders who truly appreciate a strong board, and then you have a strong board, you know, it makes for probably a much more effective organization.
Their people have such commitment. It starts with Dick Lyons, and it goes out into all the individuals who work for the Y. They probably could get more money somewhere else, but they have an emotional commitment. And that emotional commitment is what makes the Y special. Not just the physical attributes of the Y, but the people who work there. They have some terrific people.
But at the end of the day, the mission carries over to a culture within the organization, not only at a board level, but at administrative level, and really all the way down through the organization, through its members. People looking out for people.
I think all of us as instructors or personal trainers, we reach out to the members and we know them personally. A lot of times you form friendships. When I do my small group personal training classes, we all make a connection that it's more than just a trainer and a client. I mean, we form bonds and friendships, and they tell me about their family, I tell them about mine. It's something you don't get somewhere else.
There is. That's why I've been sitting in the chair for 18 years, you know. So you have, you know, it's not for everybody as far as being on staff and realizing what the why is. I mean, it's internalized, you know. It creeps up on you and you realize what the organization is.
Every day you go in and you get to talk to people that love being here. They love the community that we build. They love our community. The people that come to the Y are here because they love Newcastle. They want to see it thrive. and they're glad that the Y is here and can help work towards that goal.
If you don't have the compassion for other people, you don't need to be at the Y, because it's all about compassion. It's about loving others as you love yourself.
We've been able to change the programs. Who would have thought when I first came into the YMCA that we would be running child care programs, babysitting programs, but the need's been there and the Y has stepped forward to run it.